Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather coming at you with another update. In this update, we're going to be talking about a spring snowstorm with some severe weather, flooding rains, and much colder temperatures behind a strong cold front. So before I do get started, if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. And I do ask you to share this video with your friends and family on social media. All right, so let's get started. Let's take a look at the overall map of what's happening this morning as of March 31st here. And look at the temperatures. There's your cold front that's made it all the way down past the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And back behind it, yeah, we've got some much colder temperatures. 27 in Denver, 27 in the panhandle of Texas, even 36 up here in Portland, 1 degree up here in southern Canada. But yeah, that cold front is making a beeline down south. And you can look out ahead of it. There's your warm sector. We're going to have to be dealing with some showers and storms later on today. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted a marginal and slight risk for a lot of areas down here in the southeast, getting in anywhere from southern Mississippi to much of Alabama here, getting into northern parts of Georgia, are going to be under the gun for the main threat is going to be your damaging winds and then the hail. And then, yes, you're going to have an isolated tornado as well. I think they even had one yesterday, even in a marginal risk. So, don't take your guard down. If you're under a marginal risk, you can still have a tornado in that atmosphere as long as the dynamics come together. So definitely be on the lookout for that later on today. And you can definitely see where your rain is along that boundary. We've got some flash flood watches we're going to have to be dealing with as well. Let me show you those watches. Here's that cold front back behind it. Yeah, we've got freeze warnings for much of Missouri here, getting into southern portions of Illinois and much of Kentucky, as well as those freezing temperatures will take a nosedive southward. And even a freeze watch in portions of Oklahoma and even northern portions of Mississippi here. So, and then where that rain is, unfortunately, where they've had a lot of flooding rain into Tennessee, they're going to get more of it. So they've implemented those flash flood watches in that area, and even some flash flood warnings currently, as some heavier rain has already moved into the region, and that's going to be inundating throughout much of the day. And we've got wind advisories down to the south where it's going to be windy back behind that cold front. And we'll show you some of those winds. And then up here in the north, that's where we're going to be dealing with our spring snowstorm. Behind that colder temperatures, we've already got winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings for much of interior portions of New England going into New York here. So let me kind of walk you through the overall drought index. So it's basically been kind of two sides. I mean, you can see a lot of the precipitation over the last several months has been predominantly over the central and southern and eastern part of the U.S. where it says none here. That's no drought currently, but the yellow is depicted abnormally dry. But once you start getting into the orange area, that's your moderately dry area. Then you have your severe drought and your darker orange. Your redder shaded area in the desert southwest is your extreme drought. And then once you get into the darkest shaded area, that is your exceptional drought. So we need rainfall in a big way. And unfortunately, it's not coming because we got some drier air entering the picture, especially on the west side. But we've got a lot of heavier rain to deal with, and a lot of the same places that don't need any rain, unfortunately, they're going to be getting more later on today into tomorrow, because here's the surface map later on today. That's why the Storm Prediction Center has that marginal and slight risk of severe weather and into portions of Alabama here into Mississippi, northern Georgia here, extending into the Carolinas as well, even into portions of Virginia is going to be under the gun for possibly that severe threat under that warm sector. And then you can definitely see where the blue is. That's your colder push. Look at the high pressures, 1033, 1031. So that's some definitely colder air for springtime diving south, and it's going to make a huge difference of where the temperatures has been. So definitely be prepared for that. And once that precipitation taps into that colder temperatures, that's where we're going to see the snow starting to fly later on today, especially as we get into the overnight on Wednesday night going into Thursday morning, April 1st. That snow could start flying in portions of West Virginia. You could see a dusting or so in portions of eastern Ohio, believe it or not. But once you get into Pennsylvania here, the snows kind of really pick up. I'm thinking maybe 1 to 2 inches in places like Pittsburgh. But once you get into the interior regions, several inches. But once you get into New York, yeah, I mean, upstate New York could be picking up anywhere from 6 inches plus. With this particular event, you can see the low off the coast. It's going to be all rain along the I-95 corridor as this traverses up, but it stays off the coast in the position of the low. Here's the temperatures by the time we get into Thursday morning. You can definitely see those colder temperatures. Look at all the blue. That is your freezing temperatures. So a good chunk of, spring, April 1st, below freezing temperatures for much of the central and eastern part, getting in the Ohio Valley, and up here in the Northeast, you can definitely see we're down to 32, and these are falling temperatures as we continue to fall throughout the day, even down to the south here, even into Texas. This is, if I zoomed in further, there would probably be more areas I'll show you, and little outlying areas, near freezing, or I'm expecting a good frost and a good chunk of the Texas Hill Country. So definitely protect your plants later on this evening. But as we get into the even in the southeast here, man, look at those 30s, those colder temperatures, and that's colder temperatures extend all the way into Tennessee, where they dealt with that flooding. Now they're going to be dealing with freezing temperatures. And if not almost record cold temperatures in some of these areas, could break daily records, not just on Thursday, but also again on Friday. So there's definitely some colder temperatures on the way. But as we go through the day on Thursday, you can definitely see that as that precipitation continues to ride up the coast, that precipitation falls and kind of overrides itself. Yeah, that transfer to all snow and even heavier snow at times in a lot of the Northeast here, as this will continue up the coast. And like I mentioned, even as we get into 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 21Z is right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, that snow is continuing to fly as that colder push continues to push southward. Look at the temperatures by 3 o'clock. I mean, we're going to struggle to get above freezing. I mean, it was 32 at 6 a.m. Now it's 30 at 3 in places like Pittsburgh. So yeah, this is definitely some colder push. Even in the hottest part of the day, you're not going to even get above freezing, where that snow is going to be flying for a good chunk going into the morning hours and extending into the afternoon in portions of New England here. But look at the high temperatures extending all the way down in the southeast. Yeah, that's some definitely chillier air extending all the way down into the Carolinas here. But as we go through the morning hours on Friday, look, that low continues to push off the coast. All the snow moves out, and it's widespread clear. Then you have that dry, high pressures overhead, light winds, radiational cooling, and we drop like a rock in a lot of places. By the time we get into Friday morning, the April the 2nd here, all the way down in the southeast, I mean, we're talking freezing temperatures in northern portions of Mississippi and Alabama, and even into Georgia. I mean, even Atlanta, we're talking a freeze probably for you guys coming up by the time Friday morning rolls around. And that colder push will just continue to push. Even Florida, it's not going to miss out on this one, as the panhandle dips down in the upper 30s, and even in the central Florida down in the mid 40s. So that's some definitely colder temperatures, but widespread 20s for much of Minnesota, getting into Wisconsin here, and getting into Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. All these states are going to be below freezing coming up on Friday morning. But here's your wind. So like I mentioned, back behind that front, we're going to have to be dealing with those stronger wind gusts later on today in Texas, and this will continue to shift into the southeast and then eventually get up into the northeast, where that cold front is going to be falling. So out ahead of that, back behind that front, those wind gusts could anywhere from be 35, 40, even almost 45 miles an hour at times. So definitely look out for some windy conditions back behind that front as the front moves through your area. Here's the precipitation basically between now and Friday, because there's nothing really happens after Friday. All the precipitation in the front next couple days will be in the southeast. That's where those flooding rains and dealing with that wet soil is still going to be inundated into the portions of the southeast. And even some heavier rain falling up along the coast, along the I-95 corridor as well. Here's your snow for the next, for that springtime snowstorm that's going to hit New England. Yeah, we could be picking up a dusting or two, maybe up to an inch in eastern parts of Ohio here, as well as West Virginia. But as we go up the coast, and like I mentioned, Pittsburgh, maybe 1 or 2 inches out of this deal, just kind of a wet snow. As you go into the interior regions, 2 to 4 could not out of the question, but higher amounts as you go into upstate New York, and some of these isolated places could pick almost a foot of snow, and that's the latest GFS. And as we go into the latest NAM 3K, I like this one the best. I think this gives you a true depiction on how this is actually going to play out, with a good swath of 2 to 4 and then isolated amounts of 6 to 8 in sporadic locations, with some heavier amounts as you get into upstate New York. Could be picking up from 8 to 12 inches in some isolated amounts with that spring snowstorm. But here's your first 5 days. So all the cold air will shift south and southeast. So you have your below average anomalies between now and Monday. So that much of the south and the southeast, and even the northeast, will remain below average for the next 5 days as we warm up out west and we hit those 10, 15, almost 20 degrees above average temperatures for much of the west coast, where you remain dry and milder out west. And then if we look beyond that and kind of give you a sneak peek for the following 5 days, where that cold air was inundated over the southeast, now that ridge of high pressure will be centered over the central part of the U.S., and we really warm up in a big way for the next 5 days through the 10th here. For much of next week, that warmth just extends from 10 to 15, almost 20 degrees above average temperatures for much of the central U.S., and much as this hotter air continues to push further east, and then those cooler temperatures will be just kind of right along the coast into Washington and Oregon, as well as California, with some 2 to 4 degrees below average temperatures. That's for the midweek into next weekend. So that kind of gives you a sneak peek. But here's your precipitation. Because if we go into April historically typically tries to be one of your wettest months of the year for spring. I mean, April showers brings May flowers. Well, hey, we're going to be below average here, so there's not going to be much rain to choose from. So, a lot of these areas, this is just picking up on the next couple of days. But yeah, much of the West Coast and much of the central U.S., where that high pressure is going to be dominating for much of the week next week, is going to be high and dry. So we're going to be well below average precipitation coming up for the following week, next week. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.